Your dad meant well, he really did. He handed you his helmet, showed you the throttle, and passed down a lifetime of hard-won riding wisdom with the confidence of a man who had survived multiple decades on two wheels. The problem is that some of that wisdom was already wrong when he said it, and the rest of it has been comprehensively demolished by modern engineering, technology, science, and research that his generation never had access to. 20 myths, 3 verdicts, dead wrong, partly true, or outdated, all delivered with the love and respect that your old man deserves and the brutal accuracy that his advice does not. Let us begin. Number 20, always warm up for 10 minutes before you ride. Outdated, that is the verdict. Your dad said it, his dad said it before him. You probably still do it now, standing in the driveway for 10 minutes while the neighbors wonder if your bike is broken. The ritual warming up had genuine mechanical logic when it was passed down. Old air-cooled engines used carburetors calibrated for specific running temperatures. A cold carb delivered a terrible fuel mixture. The engine stumbled and fouled plugs until everything warmed up. 10 minutes was not superstition, it was survival. Modern fuel-injected engines have oxygen sensors and electronic control units that sample the air-fuel ratio hundreds of times per second and adjust the mixture in real time. The ECU knows the engine is cold and compensates automatically. It also knows when the engine is warm and backs off the enrichment. No carb needle, no choke, no temperamental cold start ritual required. The practical instruction: 30 to 60 seconds of idling for oil pressure to build, then ride gently for the first mile. No full throttle launches, no standing in the driveway, burning fuel while your neighbors file a noise complaint. At number 19, an entire generation was convinced the Japanese could not build a reliable motorcycle. Number 19, never buy a Japanese bike, they fall apart. Dead wrong. Historically, entertainingly, empirically wrong. In the 1950s and 60s, this was not entirely without foundation. Early British and European manufacturers had spent decades establishing a global reputation for performance. The Japanese manufacturers were new entrants producing machines that the established industry openly mocked. The snobbery was real, and at the very beginning, some of the quality issues were real too. By the 1970s, Japanese manufacturers were systematically destroying the established players in reliability surveys, in sales figures, and on racetracks. By the 1980s, the British motorcycle industry had largely ceased to exist as a mass-market enterprise. The Japanese built better motorcycles. The reliability data accumulated over 50 years of global ownership is now so overwhelming that arguing the other side requires either being very old or very committed to a narrative. Honda Goldwings are routinely documented crossing 300,000 miles on original engines. The Suzuki Hayabusa 4-cylinder has been turbocharged by enthusiasts on stock internals to outputs that should destroy it. It does not destroy. If your dad said this to you, tell him you love him and that the evidence respectfully disagrees. At number 18, an engine configuration that dad was genuinely partially right about, which makes the verdict far more interesting. Number 18, 2 strokes are faster than 4 strokes. Partly true, but context required before pronouncing a verdict. At the moment your dad delivered this fact, in a specific displacement class, on a racetrack or a drag strip, it was frequently accurate. A properly tuned 2-stroke produces a power stroke on every revolution of the crankshaft. A 4-stroke produces 1 every 2 revolutions. All else being equal, that firing frequency advantage translates to a power-to-weight ratio that made 2 strokes absolutely savage in the right conditions. Grand Prix racing was dominated by 2-stroke technology for 4 decades. Your dad was not making things up. What changed is 2 things. First, technology. Modern 4-stroke development, particularly cross-plane cranks, variable valve timing, and sophisticated fueling systems, has produced power-to-weight ratios that the best 2-stroke race engines would have found extraordinary. A current MotoGP 4-stroke produces around 260 horsepower from 1,000 cubic centimeters. The best 2-stroke GP machines of their era produced around 200 horsepower from 500 cubic centimeters. The advantage has been closed. Second, emissions legislation has effectively removed 2 strokes from the road, legal new motorcycle market in most major markets. Your dad's wisdom is historically accurate and currently inaccessible at the same time. If you are riding a vintage two-stroke, the old man was right. If you are buying new, the regulators made the choice for you. At number 17, Dad had very specific, ritualistic advice about new engines that turned out to be a half-truth, delivered with total conviction. Number 17, keep it under 4,000 RPM for the first 1,000 miles. Outdated, true once, less universally true now. The break-in procedure for an engine is about seating the piston rings against the cylinder walls. New rings need to wear slightly against the bore until they form a gas-tight seal. The old method of running gently for extended periods was calibrated for engines with looser manufacturing tolerances and less sophisticated metallurgy. Low revs meant lower combustion pressures, which meant the rings seated gradually rather than being slammed against the bore with full force. Modern CNC machining produces cylinder bore tolerances so precise that the rings seat themselves during factory testing in many cases. Varied loading actually helps ring seating more effectively than constant low-load running. Follow your specific manufacturer's guidelines, which you will find in the owner's manual, rather than from anyone's father. Many modern manufacturers specify a gentle first 500 miles, followed by progressively harder use through the second 500. Dad's advice was conservative rather than wrong. Being wrong is what happens at number 16, where he delivered safety advice that was actually embarrassment avoidance advice in disguise. Number 16, never put your foot down. It looks amateur. Dead wrong. This one was never mechanical advice. It was social advice wearing motorcycle safety clothing. The myth has a kernel of real technique inside it. Putting your foot down in a corner at speed is genuinely problematic. A boot catching tarmac at the wrong moment can unsettle the bike dramatically. In that specific context, keeping your feet on the pegs is correct technique. The version of this advice that got passed down, however, mutated into a general principle that putting a foot down at low speed was embarrassing, amateurish, and something experienced riders simply did not do. This is nonsense wrapped in machismo. Professional motorcycle police officers are explicitly trained to use their feet as outriggers in specific slow-speed situations. Anyone who has navigated a gravel car park on a heavy touring bike does it and feels no shame whatsoever. Putting a foot down when you need stability is a skill, not a failure. The failure is letting pride override your instinct to stabilize the bike because someone told you it looked bad. The only thing that looks worse than a grounded foot is a grounded motorcycle. At number 15, Dad had an opinion about chain maintenance intervals that was almost correct. The devil is comprehensively in the detail. Number 15, lube the chain every 300 miles without fail. Partly true. The principle is correct. The number was invented. Chain lubrication is genuinely important. An unlubricated chain wears rapidly, stretches prematurely, and can damage both sprockets in a way that makes the repair bill considerably more interesting than a can of chain spray. Dad was correct that chain maintenance matters enormously. The specific number, however, was not derived from engineering research. It was passed down the same way most maintenance folklore is passed down. One person said it with enough confidence that everyone else wrote it down. The actual interval varies enormously depending on chain type, seal type, riding conditions, and climate. An O-ring or X-ring chain retains factory grease inside rubber seals around each link pin permanently. The external lube you apply mostly prevents corrosion on the outer surfaces. Over-lubing attracts grit that acts as an abrasive on the side plates and sprockets. Check your chain after every washing and after rain. Wipe it clean before applying lube. Apply to the inside of the lower run where it reaches the sprocket interface. Technique beats ritual. At number 14, Dad got completely confused about tire width and grip in a way that kept riders on the wrong rubber for decades. If this is already rearranging furniture in your brain, hit that like button right now. Number 14 is where Dad got completely confused about the relationship between tire width and grip. Number 14, skinny tires grip better. Dead wrong. Grip between a tire and the road surface comes from two mechanisms: mechanical interlocking of the rubber into micro-texture on the road surface, and chemical adhesion between the rubber compound and the aggregate. Both of these phenomena scale with contact patch area. More rubber touching more road equals more grip, up to the limits imposed by the compound formulation and the load on the tire. This is why racing tires, where the engineers are solving purely for grip, are wide. Tire selection should be driven by manufacturer specification for your wheel size and your riding style, not by a folk belief that narrower equals grippier. Fitting a tire narrower than the manufacturer specifies reduces both contact patch and load carrying capacity. This is not a performance upgrade, it is a liability. At number 13, a myth that has stopped thousands of riders from developing a skill they absolutely need for surviving the roads they actually ride on. Number 13, never ride in the rain. ABS doesn't work on wet roads. Dead wrong. Both halves of this myth are wrong, separately and together. Rain riding is more demanding than dry riding. Stopping distances increase. Painted road markings and manhole covers become treacherous. These are real considerations. But avoiding all rain riding is not risk management. It is skill avoidance. Riders who never ride in the rain never develop wet weather skills. Competent wet weather riding requires reduced speed, smooth inputs, and an understanding that the bike will communicate what it needs. None of that develops from staying home. Now for the ABS claim, which is actually the reverse of the truth. Anti-lock braking systems work by rapidly releasing and reapplying brake pressure when wheel lock is detected, preventing the tire from sliding. This function works on wet surfaces, it works on gravel, it works on painted lines. In many of those conditions, it works better than on dry tarmac because the speed of the intervention becomes more critical when grip is already reduced. Modern cornering ABS systems can even modulate separately at each wheel while the bike is leaned over. ABS works in the rain. It works because of the rain. Learn to ride in the rain. Your local roads do not care about your dad's scheduling preferences. At number 12, he had a braking technique that was partially right for the technology available when he learned it. Number 12, always pump the brakes, never grab them. Outdated, correct for drum brakes, actively counterproductive on modern systems. Pumping the brakes made complete sense in the drum brake era. Drum brakes could fade under sustained hard application because heat built up inside the drum and reduced braking effectiveness dramatically. Modern motorcycles use hydraulic disc brakes with vastly superior heat dissipation. The brake caliper squeezes pads against a rotor exposed to AIR flow. Heat dissipates continuously during the stop. There is no fade mechanism that pumping would alleviate. What pumping does do on a modern hydraulic system is reduce caliper pressure between each pump, directly extending stopping distance. Show the master cylinder and hydraulic line. One squeeze of the lever builds pressure throughout the entire hydraulic system to all calipers simultaneously. Releasing that pressure and rebuilding it repeatedly is measurably less effective than maintaining consistent pressure throughout the stop. Squeeze progressively and firmly. If you have ABS, trust it to manage the wheel lock. If you do not have ABS, learn threshold braking through practice at low speed in a car park. Pumping will feel familiar. It will also be slower. At number 11, Dad had the power displacement relationship broadly correct, but missed the point entirely when it comes to what makes a motorcycle fast. Number 11, the bigger the engine, the faster you go. Partly true. Displacement matters. It is just not the only thing that matters, or even the main thing. Raw displacement does produce raw power, and raw power does contribute to top speed and acceleration. In that direct sense, a larger engine in a similar bike will generally produce more thrust. The principle is not wrong. Power-to-weight ratio is the actual determinant of performance. A 120 horsepower bike at 420 pounds is faster in the real world than the same power at 700 pounds, regardless of which has the larger engine. When evaluating performance, look at power-to-weight ratio and torque curve shape alongside displacement. The number on the tank badge is marketing as much as it is engineering. At number 10, Dad's opinion about engine oil that was incorrect at the time. He said it and has become more incorrect with every passing year. Number 10, synthetic oil ruins, old engines use mineral only. Dead wrong. This one has been disproven so comprehensively, it is almost a case study in how myths survive against mounting evidence. The claim originated from genuine observations in early synthetic oil adoption during the 1970s and 80s. Early synthetic formulations had seal compatibility issues with some rubber compounds used in older engine gaskets. The seals swelled or shrank in contact with certain synthetic ester-based stocks. Owners reported leaks. The narrative formed, synthetic oil attacks rubber seals. Avoid synthetics in old engines. The seal formulations changed over the following decades. Modern synthetic oils are compatible with all seal materials any currently running motorcycle is likely to contain. The valve cover gasket and crankcase seals are the components the myth targeted. Run your finger along any of them on a well-maintained vintage machine running quality modern synthetic, and you will find nothing. No seepage, no expansion, no protest. Synthetic oil provides superior film strength at high temperatures, better cold start protection, and more stable viscosity across the operating range. The only argument for mineral oil in an older engine is cost, which is a legitimate personal financial decision. It is not a mechanical one. At number 9, the full-face helmet received an accusation from Dad that turns out to have been argued backwards from the start. Number 9, full-face helmets restrict your vision and hearing. Dead wrong. The data on this one goes in entirely the other direction. The peripheral vision claim is measurable and measured. UK regulations and European ECE standards require motorcycle helmets to provide a minimum horizontal field of vision of 210 degrees. A standard human visual field is approximately 180 degrees. The regulation exceeds human biology. Your chin bar is not occluding anything you could actually see without it. The chin bar protection argument is perhaps the most decisive. Studies of real crash impacts consistently find the chin and jaw area to be a primary point of helmet contact with the ground or another surface. An open-face helmet offers zero chin protection. A full-face helmet offers the only chin protection available in production helmets. Subscribe to the channel right now. We do this every single week, and there is a lot more where this came from. Number 8, never let a beginner ride your bike. Partly true. The underlying principle is sound. The absolute delivery is an overstatement. There is genuine mechanical and legal wisdom buried in here. Lending your motorcycle to an unlicensed or uninsured rider is illegal in most jurisdictions and invalidates your insurance. The word never is where it becomes an overstatement. Every experienced rider alive today was once a beginner who needed access to a machine in order to stop being one. Dad's advice collapsed all of those distinctions into one rule because one rule is easier to remember and harder to argue with at the time. The practical version is more nuanced and more useful. At number 7, Dad had a strong opinion about fuel delivery technology that was historically defensible and is now comprehensively outdated. Number 7, carburetors are more reliable than fuel injection. Outdated. True for a specific period. Completely reversed by the technology curve. In the 1990s, first-generation fuel injection had genuine teething problems. Abrupt throttle response, inconsistent cold starts. Carburetors, refined over 7 decades, just worked without electronics or software. A carburetor can be cleaned, adjusted, and rebuilt with a basic toolkit in a garage. That repairability argument still has genuine merit for riders in remote areas with limited access to dealer diagnostics. In terms of raw reliability on modern systems, however, the argument has completely reversed. Contemporary fuel injection is more reliable than any carburetor system ever was. There are no jets to claw, no floats to stick, no needle clips to adjust seasonally for altitude and temperature. The system self-calibrates continuously. It adapts to fuel quality variations. It runs correctly at 4,000 meters elevation and at sea level without any human intervention. The fuel injection system wins the reliability argument now. It was a fair fight for a while. It is no longer a fair fight. At number 6, Dad's gear advice was not wrong in principle, but missed a revolution that happened while he was not paying attention. Number 6, leather is the only real protective gear. Outdated. Leather was the correct answer for a long time. It is now one of several correct answers. Leather's protective credentials are genuine and well-established. Thick bovine hide has excellent abrasion resistance, good energy distribution over slide impacts, and has been validated by racing application across a century of motorsport. Your dad was not wrong to recommend it. What changed is textile technology. Modern motorcycle textiles use Cordura weave structures, Dyneema reinforcements, and technical fabrics with abrasion ratings that match or exceed leather at specific thicknesses. CE Level 2 armor inserts, which can be fitted to any quality textile jacket, provide certified impact protection that leather alone does not guarantee. Textile gear also offers weatherproofing that leather cannot match. A waterproof membrane bonded into a textile jacket keeps you dry and protected simultaneously. At number 5, your dad gave you rev-based advice that contains a grain of mechanical truth and several grains of enthusiastic overstatement. Number 5, rev it hard to clean the engine. This is partly true, but something real is happening though. It is just not quite what Dad said it was. There is a real phenomenon underneath this myth. Engines that operate exclusively at low loads and low RPM for extended periods can accumulate carbon deposits on piston crowns, valves, and exhaust ports. This is particularly true of direct injection engines where fuel contacts the combustion chamber walls. An occasional high RPM clearance run does genuinely help burn off these deposits and clear accumulated crud from the exhaust. The problem is the frequency. Once every several thousand miles, a spirited motorway run at high RPM is genuinely beneficial. Doing it every fuel stop is solving a problem you are creating faster than you are clearing it. High RPM running accelerates wear on everything that moves inside the engine, increases oil consumption, and stresses seals and gaskets beyond their comfortable operating range. Ride with varied throttle inputs across the rev range. Occasional highway rides in the upper half of the rev range do more for engine health than any deliberate cleaning ritual. At number 4, the myth that has probably cost more riders their lives than anything else on this list, because it convinced people that a fundamental technique was dangerous. Number 4, countersteering is dangerous and unnatural. Dead wrong. Countersteering is not a technique, it is a physical law. You are already doing it. Countersteering is what happens when you push the left bar to turn left and the right bar to turn right above roughly 15 miles per hour. Your dad called it dangerous. Physics disagrees comprehensively. Any two-wheeled vehicle above low speeds follows the same geometry. Pushing forward on the right bar tilts the bike right, generating the lean angle required to turn right. This is not a choice. It is the only way the physics works. Riders who claim they do not countersteer are countersteering. They simply have not identified what their hands are doing. Telling someone to push the handlebar in the direction they want to avoid sounds deliberately dangerous. The instinct is to pull toward the safer side, which achieves the opposite. Riders who have consciously practiced countersteering respond to emergencies with deliberate inputs. Riders who have not respond with whatever panic decides. Find an empty car park. At 25 miles per hour, push firmly on the right bar and feel the bike lean right. Then do the same on the left. That physical sensation is countersteering. Owning it consciously makes it available in an emergency. Avoiding it leaves you managing the most important bike handling input without knowing it. If countersteering just changed how you think about riding, drop a comment below telling us when you actually learned about it. We read every single one. At number 3, Dad had a loud opinion about loud exhaust that has been tested by data and found to be wrong in the most embarrassingly possible way. Number 3, loud pipes save lives. Dead wrong. This one has been formally studied and the results are not kind. The argument has intuitive appeal. A loud motorcycle exhaust projects sound. Drivers of cars can hear that sound. Therefore, drivers become aware of the motorcycle and the motorcycle is safer. The logical chain seems solid until you apply it to the actual geometry of road incidents. Most serious accidents involving another vehicle happen when that vehicle turns across the path of the motorcycle. The car driver is looking away from the approaching bike. The exhaust sound projects rearward. The driver turning across your path is not hearing your pipes. They are looking right and making a decision based on what they can see. Sound also has significant directionality problems in modern vehicles, with sound insulation, air conditioning, audio systems, and closed windows. The decibel level required to penetrate a modern car interior with a motorcycle exhaust at reasonable distance exceeds what any road-legal exhaust can produce. High visibility clothing and conspicuous riding positions have demonstrated measurable safety benefits. Loud exhausts have not. They do generate noise complaints, fail roadworthiness tests, and attract traffic enforcement. At number 2, Dad gave you lane positioning advice that sounds logical, follows the car in front, and turns out to be one of the most systematically wrong things a motorcyclist can do on a public road. Number 2, always ride in the tire tracks of the car in front. Dead wrong. This is the myth with the most dangerous practical consequences of almost anything on this list. The logic sounds reasonable. Cars drive in their tire tracks constantly. The tire tracks must be the safest, most established part of the lane. Follow the proven path. The problem is that while car tires displace water, they hide what's directly beneath them. Following blindly in their tracks means you cannot see potholes, discarded truck tread, or road debris hidden between the car's wheels until the car passes over it and leaves you 0 fractions of a second to react. Furthermore, locking yourself into that track strips away your visibility to oncoming traffic. The center of the lane accumulates oil drips at junctions and traffic lights and should be actively avoided in wet conditions. Motorcycle lane positioning serves multiple purposes: visibility, contamination avoidance, sightline management, and buffer creation. All require dynamic positioning that changes throughout a journey, not a fixed commitment to following car tracks. The practical instruction: use a third, left, and center positioning system that responds to road conditions, hazards, and junctions. Never lock into one position because a car was there first. The car does not have the same vulnerabilities to road surface contamination that your tires do. At number 1, the myth that is warmest in intention, most enduring in cultural persistence, and technically the most complicated to disprove. Number 1, you never forget how to ride a bike. Partly true. The neural pathway persists. The skill level does not. The phrase is accurate in one narrow sense. The foundational motor program for bicycle or motorcycle balance is stored in procedural memory, the same deep neural encoding that allows you to walk or type without conscious thought. If you rode for years and stopped completely for a decade, you could get back on a bicycle and not fall over immediately. The basic balance reflex is still there. What the phrase completely misses is that competent motorcycle riding is not just the balance reflex. It is a layered skill system involving hazard perception, braking technique calibrated to your specific machine, corner entry, speed judgment, wet weather adaptation, traffic reading, and emergency response. All of these degrade with inactivity at a rate that the phrase spectacularly underestimates. A rider returning after a 10-year gap has the balance reflex but has lost the hazard perception, the braking feel, the corner confidence, and the emergency responses that define peak competence. They are operating a 1,000 cubic centimeter machine with a learner-level skill set while feeling like an expert. That gap is where accidents happen. If you are returning after any significant gap, take a refresher course. Ride a less powerful machine for the first season. Rebuild the layered skills rather than assuming they survived intact. Dad meant it as reassurance. Accept the reassurance and the refresher course. Both can be true. 20 myths, some dead wrong from the moment they were spoken. Some outdated by technology your dad never saw coming. Some partly true in a way that requires more nuance than a driveway conversation allows. Continue the ride and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video. See you on the road, vroom vroom.